Well, we were saying, Jean-Jacques and I have such happy memories in my time as minister, working with Jean-Jacques in your long career at the ESA and your long time as DG. And I've always enormously respected your experience and knowledge of the sector and the way you steered ESA through difficult times.
Yes, no, but on my side, I shall also start by, I am unfortunately still remembered as a former DG of ESA, and I must say that it's so long ago that sometimes I have even some difficulties to remember, but but it's true. I have been 12 years Director General of the European Space Agency, but it was almost 10 years ago, and we shall come back to that. But I can say that 12 years Director General with 22 member states, I have worked with more than 100 ministers, because during these 12 years there were a lot of elections. And I can say, and this is not because I am in front of Minister Willetts, I think that David is certainly part of the top 5 ministers with whom I have worked, because I think that, and I say that, and this is not because I am in UK, because I am saying that even outside UK, among the member states, let's say, I have learned a lot from UK. Because obviously I like the member states equally. I have no favorite member state, but there are several specificities depending on the member state, and certainly the entrepreneurship dimension of UK is certainly unique. And just to recall that the first public-private partnership that ESA has developed was with UK company, and by the way, starting with a new enterprise, which was Avanti, and then it was with Inmarsat, which was not exactly a new enterprise, but let's say this is with UK enterprise that we have started to make public-private, the first real public-private partnership, and that is certainly something that I take with me, and again, thank you. I have learned a lot from UK and from you, so it's...
Well, kind of, and of course, in a way, Jean-Jacques, your career, you have gone from ESA to New Space. You are now, you are now a New Space practitioner and advocate, and for us in the UK, I guess we have had a rather different model. Partly, of course, just because our space agency was created relatively late and simply does not operate on the scale of some of the big continental agencies, but we don't try to, and not try to have all those sort of massed ranks of technical expertise, people designing things for their national requirements. That's not how we operate at the space agency. The private sector is very important in the UK. And because of ESA, a lot of the technical work, we realize instead of trying to build up a UK capability, ESA is the source of much of the technical expertise on which we draw in the space agency. So in some ways, the model we have in the UK is partly possible because of the depth of the expertise at ESA, which means that there is no point our trying to replicate it in the UK.
But this is where, because I think that we are supposed to exchange on the role of the political leadership on the new private enterprise, and this is exactly what you said. I think that we cannot separate the institutional world from the commercial world. It's two different worlds, and I know that. After having spent 30 years at ESA, because before being Director General, I had other functions at ESA, so it's 30 years in the government world. And obviously at ESA, the political leadership is important because, unfortunately, it's political leaderships, meaning that it's 22 countries and you have to manage 22 different interests. But it works very well, very, very well. But there, the political leadership is important. But I have spent now almost 10 years in the private entrepreneurial sector, and I have the experience of the two now. meaning that I can make the difference, and make the difference by experience, not by theory. And even if the two sides they have the same objective, which is to bring space to the humans on planet Earth, because this is what we are doing every year, be it for knowledge, be it for daily life, or be it for dreams, because we should not forget the dreams attached to space. But the objectives are the same, but the process are very different. But clearly, the new enterprise, they need the institutions, and the proof is SpaceX. SpaceX is the demonstration of the role of the political leadership for a new enterprise. Because before 2006, SpaceX, which was born in 2002, during 4 years, they have had more failures than success. But this is NASA, which in 2006 made a competitive bidding for the resupply of the International Space Station, and I was already DG at that time, so I know that very well. So Monsieur Griffin, because he was in charge of NASA at that time, has taken the initiative to open a competition for the resupply of the space station. And he dared to select SpaceX in front of ULA. So this is where the competition between the new enterprise and the long-standing enterprise is very important. And but SpaceX has started to grow thanks to the contracts signed by NASA. And since then, obviously, SpaceX is doing much more and more and more. And I would like to state that SpaceX is still a new enterprise. 22 years old, it's still a new enterprise because it's renewing every year. This capacity of continuously renewing objectives, ideas, process is the mark of the new enterprise. And but he has done that thanks to the contracts of NASA. This is where.
And don't you think there's a lesson for us? Because looking back, because you're rightly describing the power of procurement to help these companies grow. And both in Europe and I think in the UK, when I look at the space scene, we basically have whales and we have tiddlers. We have lots of exciting startups. But making the journey from being a startup to being a medium-sized and rapid growing and on your way up to challenging the big incumbents, TAS or Airbus, we have found it harder to provide the amount of public support to make that journey possible. It's been, and they get bought up, I was on the board of Surrey Satellites, of course, belonging to Airbus. We've seen Inmarsat now taking it with the getting to the. Could we have done more to have created some European equivalents of SpaceX?
But I think that, yes, as you said, ESA is doing a lot, UK is doing a lot, but this is not, I dare to say, this is not enough. I think that because and I am not here to be the advocate of the new enterprise, since I am still taken as the former ESA guy. So it's but the new enterprise, they are very agile because their key asset is to start from zero. It's much easier to start from zero than to start from capacities which are existing, because changing capacities is much more difficult than to build new capacity from zero. If I have learned that in my different world, this is, as I said, let's say now in all my speeches, I said I've been 12 years Director General of ESA. During these 12 years, there was no failure of any space mission at ESA at that time. It's not my credit. I have nothing to do with that, but it's a fact. While I have tried to change ESA so many times, And unfortunately, I had much more many failures than success in trying to change ESA. Meaning that changing a long-standing organization, and especially an organization with 22 countries, and it's very difficult. It's much easier to make a space mission than to change an organization. That I can state that. So, new enterprise at start, they can invent almost anything instead of trying to keep the capacity or to just improve the capacity. So, yes, they are very agile. They starting from a white page, very easy. Yeah. But unfortunately, the reverse is that they are very, very fragile.
Yeah.
They have not, let's say, years in front of them. They have months. And this is where the institutions are important. And I am doing my best for the new enterprise with which I am working. It's to try and get service contracts from the institutions.
Yeah.
Not easy. I was ESA, so I know that it's not easy. Yeah. Because you have to take risks. As I said, NASA dared to pass a contract of 5 launches per year to the ISS, to an enterprise which until then was only failing. So you have to take risk. And taking risk for government, I have never been minister, thanks God, but taking risk for government, I don't think that this is so easy.
And it is extraordinary. And I'm not just talking about my time back as the minister, but also more recently chairing the space agency under the previous government. So talking about ministers that I'm no longer directly dealing with. But you always found there were some ministers who got it, who understood space and could see that they should use some of their procurement to think about using space-based services. And I have to say, historically, I think DEFRA, for example, in the UK, has done a pretty good job of realizing that space can provide useful services. Other departments, it did depend quite a lot on the caliber and approach of the minister and 1 or 2 key advisors. Other departments, it was just a battle. And again, I'm talking history, I'm not talking about the current government. It was a battle with transport, to get transport to see that space was relevant for them. And if you look at the US growth of the space sector, going right back to GPS, you see that it's the transport department in the US played a big role. And it was almost a matter of who you could find the personal chemistry work to get this minister and their department doing some procurement in space. Defence, of course, is our biggest procurement body, and Skynet itself was an innovation in how they did procurement, but it only ever really has been Skynet. So what we found hard to marshal in the UK is the wider procurement power of public agencies to buy more space-based services from exciting companies, often created with direct support from the UK Space Agency and ESA.
No, it's true. I think that you are perfectly right. I think that if you take the government as a customer, the customer is not space. The customer is transport, is environment, is defense. This is the customer. The customers are not space. And by the way, this is one of the difficulties that I had when I was at ESA and working with the European Commission, because I shall always remember, just an anecdote, this is true. I went to Madame Wallström, who was Commissioner for Environment at that time. And she told me, but you are space, I am environment. If you wish to speak of space, go to Monsieur Busquin, who was the Commissioner of Research. And I said, no, Madame, I wish to speak of environment, because you are the ones to use space. It's not Monsieur Busquin.
Yeah.
And my dream, if I could have shaped the European Commission to my dreams, I would have avoided to have a space capacity in the European Commission, because I was much more interested by transport, environment, defense, agriculture, and so on and so on. This was because let's say the space guys, they are fantastic guys, but they need customers, and the customers, they don't know what space can bring to them, and there is the exchange is so important. And by the way, it's always what I am telling to the new enterprise: you have to speak as your customers, not as a supplier. And that it's a difficulty also, because space, unfortunately, in governments is always under the Minister of Space or Science or whatever, but not under the Minister Customer of Space.
Yeah. And I think the green net zero budget, and not just we're talking about public procurement, but also private investment, and the VC funds that want to prioritize sustainability and decarbonisation and the green agenda, that's a better opening for space than simply being categorised as a sort of technology push part of DCIT. And so those are the kind of opportunities we have to seize now. This battle is not lost. It's a permanent attempt to engage with people who don't instinctively think of space, exactly as Jean-Jacques said, but to realise that space can help solve their problems. And I do detect from my conversations with our new ministerial team and Peter Kyle, they are very keen to see space and more widely science and tech deployed to tackle the problems and pressures on public services and the other objectives at Whitehall. And that has to be how we secure more funding, and it's also how we secure more commercial investment.
So I think that there is a lot to do, but the role of government is important, and I would like to maybe to underline what I said, that the government, they have to act as a customer and less as a ruler. But
yes.
What the enterprise they need, it's contracts of services, and government, they have also to take the risk to organize competition between the new enterprise and the long-standing enterprise. As I said, SpaceX has won a competition against ULA. And you have to remember that ULA was Boeing and Lockheed, pardon.
Yeah.
And NASA dared to select. And unfortunately, I don't think that there is yet the willingness to put in competition the new enterprise and the long-standing enterprise. On the contrary, I see a lot of contracts from institutions saying you have to reserve 30% for the small enterprise. This is not what the new enterprise, maybe the small enterprise, but not the new enterprise. Even if they are small, they are ready to compete. And that is something that, but it will come. It will come. I am, let's say, optimistic. I have always been optimistic. I must say that. But there is a lot to do, and the role of governments is very, very, very important for the future of young enterprise, of new enterprise. Because as I said, the SpaceX is still a new enterprise, but it has grown a lot. So you have not to make the new enterprise does not mean small enterprise. And small enterprise does not mean new enterprise either. But it's different, because the new enterprise, they have to grow. They have to continue to be new, but they have to grow. And to grow, they need contracts. Obviously, a large majority of the market is still with the institutions. The real commercial part of the market is still a small part. The ones who need the most space are still the government, again, for defense first. Let's say, I always said that the biggest agency in the world is not NASA by far. This is the Department of Defense of the United States, which has a much bigger budget than NASA. So defense first, which is typical government, But again, environment, agriculture, transport. Let's say the first space program of the European Commission was Galileo, and this was the only one coming from transport. It was originally the Director General of Transport who was the one to push and to promote Galileo. I would have liked that it continues like that, but okay, I was not in charge, so it's... But the government are the most important customer for enterprise, and that is the message that I wanted, and I know that you are more than in agreement with that. And
well, I think I'm looking. I think we have actually got to the lunch break because the time is passing. So I don't think the plan now is to move on and have some lunch, isn't it?
Before we go for lunch, we have a little surprise, and this one is mine. This one is mine. This is Right Honourable Lord Willetts Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, that's very sweet of you.
Your services.
Thank you very much. That is very kind of you. Thank you.
That's showing through quite in European space. And thank you. Thanks for coming on. Lifetime Achievement Award from the European.
thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Let's declare. There. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming along today.
Thank you.